Well, good evening and welcome to the Caithness Amateur Dram Antics Society tasting. And tonight I'm going to do a tasting of three whiskies, discontinued whiskies from Springbank, Longrow and Kilkerran. Uh, First up, we'll taste the Springbank CV Single Malt. From circa the 2010s. This is the one with the gold label, bottled at 46%, and it does say on the bottle that it's non-chill filtered. Doesn't say anything about colour on this one on the bottle. If there was a box, it's long gone. So I don't think it's got colour though. So for the uninitiated, Springbank Distillery is one of the few remaining family-owned whisky producers in Scotland, and it's noticeable for its commitment to traditional methods of whisky production, including floor malting, germinating the barley by hand, and the use of heritage barley. And it's considered to be a cult brand by whisky lovers for its ability to maintain its very distinct and complex flavour profile through the decades, despite the modernisation seen in the rest of the Scotch whisky industry. And I would really encourage anyone to visit Springbank Distillery. It's just an incredible place. Just really hands-on whisky production that you just don't see anywhere else. The Springbank CV was the last seen non-age statement Springbank expression. The series had been around since at least the 1990s, when it had a white label, but it refreshed its look to this sleek black label with the gold. But then it was discontinued around 2013, and since then it's become something of a collectible item. CV. Well, Johnny Mitchell don't explain what the CV stands for, but I suspect it's curriculum vitae, symbolising that the spirit is a concise summary of various batches of Springbank whiskies made at the time at that distillery, including various ages and various cask styles. Unfortunately, precious little can be gleaned from the label of this bottle, so we need to fall back on a little bit of research and whispers about the bottle. And this is a post 2010 bottle of CV, which is a blend of 7, 10 and 14-year-old whiskey from various casks, including, I think it's ex-bourbon 70%, ex-sherry 25% and export 5%. And they were selected by the then Director of Production Frank McCarty and the then Distillery Manager Stuart Robertson. And so it was really to represent Springbank's unique DNA and showcase the distillery's blending experiences. So still a nice pop on the cork, which hasn't dried out. And it is a pale gold colour. It has nice tears. And right off the bat, you're hit with a bouquet of sweet, rich fruits. Think apples and peaches with a dash of creamy vanilla. And the initial sweetness is underscored by a hint of a rustic gaminess, which kind of takes you into the countryside and a barnyard in the countryside. But that funk is exactly what fans of Springbank enjoy. And as it evolves, the scent of pears or melons joins the fray. It's super expressive, and despite all that's going on, it's quite gentle on the nose. I'm going to try the palate. And the first thing you notice is how oily and unctuous it feels in the mouth. It's slick and thick. It's like velvet. It opens with a lovely combination of sweet cream, apples, pears, and vanilla. And you get a rich honey vibe off of it too. And that honeyed sweetness plays beautifully with more orchard fruits. And there's a bit of spice from the port and the sherry casks as well. Raisins and toasted nuts. And the rustic barnyard nuances and the slight funkiness come back, alongside salted butterscotch biscuits and a subtle hint of light gasoline in the background, that Campbeltown funk. And the finish is long and memorable. Smoked cheese, caramel, honey, and a bit of mintiness. And right at the very end, there's some of a sort of retro nasal aromas of dark chocolate, light bonfire embers, and a touch of sea salt. I'm going to try a full milliliter in this, a lot more than I would usually add. And I would fully expect to see some Scotch mist in this because it's non-chill filtered. And you get quite a bit. Bit of haze forming there. And now it's soft on both sweet and herbal notes. It's a sweet malt, orange peel, raisins and snuff with sort of freshly sawn wood, cod liver oil, and a touch of smoke. And it's nice, oily and spicy on the palate. And the sweetness comes first now. The raisins and mostly oranges return in a sort of peppery jacket, followed by sweet peat. And then it turns somewhat brackish, sweet and salt fight for supremacy. And with the water, it's a sort of medium long finish, slightly dry, and there's a slightly sour aftertaste with notes of licorice, honey, salty caramel, earthy notes. Soft smoke and a hint of licorice. It's a bit bitter at the end with water. It's packed with flavour. It's super aromatic and has all the good quirks of a Springbank. And it doesn't require you to sit through the high ABV of 50% above ABV of cask strength whiskey to access the flavour. And it's up there as one of the best modern day Springbanks I've had. And by modern, I mean anything post 2000s. It just nails the balance and integration of flavours. And some people have said about the 2010 Springbank CV that it's subdued or not quite meshed together right. But from what I've tasted, I'm sold on it. It could well be that this has been opened and been sitting for some time, especially considering the fill level. The amount of air in the bottle could have mellowed and melded the flavours more through oxidation. But I would always judge a whiskey by its best performance. And this is a fantastic expression. It just gets better with time, providing that sometimes a little patience can make a good thing, or just an okay thing, much better. This was last seen around 2013. You'll probably be paying over the odds for this at auction. So our best bet may be to wait until Springbank unleashes another batch. Nevertheless, it's worth the drive if you happen to spot it anywhere for a reasonable price. I'm going to cleanse my palate with a Stockings mini oatcake. And next up, we're going to look at an older bottle of Kilkerran. It's a Kilkerran work in progress, 5th release, Bourbon wood, 46% ABV. This is the 5th release with the bottle code 13200 from 2013. One of 9,000 bottles, and it's 9 years old. This was the part of the 5th edition of the Work in Progress series that followed the distillate till the eventual release of their standard core range. Until the 4th release, these releases have been singular. With the 5th release, they doubled with a Bourbon wood release and a Sherry wood release. And I should note here that even though the name of the distillery is Glengyle, the name on the bottle is Kilkerran, and the name I would categorise it as Kilkerran, and that is the name that most people would look for. Until Kilkerran's whiskey began to be available a few years ago, there were only 2 functional distilleries in Campbeltown, which was once the heart of the Scotch whisky production. And these distilleries are and were Glen Scotia and Springbank. Now, Springbank does produce the Hazelburn and Longrow malts as well, but these are merely production variants of Springbank, produced at the same distillery. And as there were only two distilleries in Campbeltown risked losing its regional status as a whisky producing region. And there is some suggestion that they reopened the Glengyle distillery to save Campbeltown as a whisky region. So the distillery's name is not Kilkerran but Glengyle, and Glengyle has a long and convoluted history. It was founded in the 1870s, but by the early 1900s it was not really making whiskey anymore. After several aborted attempts to get it going again throughout the century, it was finally restarted in 2000 by the same people who owned Springbank, bringing the distillery full circle. It was originally started by a member of the same family who'd broken away from the Springbank business. However, at this point, Glengyle was a brand name owned by Longrow, who operate Glen Scotia, and they wouldn't allow Springbank to produce the whisky as called Glengyle, so Kilkerran was the name chosen for the malts made at the reopened Glengyle distillery. So to recap, Kilkerran is the whisky made at Glengyle, which is owned by Springbank, who can't put the name of the distillery on the label because it's the name of a whisky produced at the neighbouring Glen Scotia distillery, which is owned by completely different people. However, as at Springbank, there is an artisanal ethos that goes into making Kilkerran. And I have to say that even though the distillery uses equipment from the defunct Ben Wyvis distillery and from Craigellachie, its whisky is very much in line with the Springbank profile. Those who give a lot of credence to issues of terroir will notice that it may not be a coincidence that Kilkerran is matured in Springbank's warehouses. A more likely explanation is probably that the two distilleries' production methods are probably very similar. Kilkerran Glengyle released several editions of work in progress each year from 2009 until 2015. This is from 2013. Bourbon cask matured, 46% Kilkerran, and non-coloured, non-chill filtered, as is the gold standard always met by Springbank and Glengyle. They're slightly darker colour than the Springbank CV, and a few tears. This is peated, not heavily peated. Classic Springbank goodness. I know it's a different distillery. So I'm getting coriander seeds, lemon, sackcloth, pepper, and a damp earthy sweetness, all mixed in together with just a whiff of smoke in the background. As it sits there, brine, both maritime and ham, and the lemon turns to sweet orange, and with more time there's some malt and sweet cocoa as well. There's snaps of different aromas here: soya, vanilla, crushed leaf, nutmeg, and has a penetrating citrus with earthy smokes. It's like almost like the fragrance paper that you would use to write a love letter on. I once came across my father's letters from sea when he was in the Navy back home to his future wife, my mother, and they still carried some of the fragrance of the paper even after, oh, we'd be talking 25 years at that time. And now I'm getting some vanilla cream with more citrus shavings. And you get the boiled barley mashes and just that bit of brown. The maritime quality of Springbank or Campbeltown rather. I'll try them out. And you get the doses of the coastal smokiness, creamy, ashy and metallic sweetness, tropical fruits, charred with drizzles of zesty juice of citrus. It's vivid, lively, and it's a smoggy mouthfeel, as if in Campbeltown Bay, Campbeltown Loch. And it's like the nose, but there's some pepper and some carbon paper as well. It's got a wonderful depth of texture at 46% and more fruit with each sip. With time it's maltier here, with that sweet cocoa coming through again. And the finish is long. There's some more salt and some graphite here. But it's the great stuff from the palate slowly easing out with the sea salt building as it goes. It's waxy with an oily smoky coating. Darjeeling tea, reddish licorice with a sort of well engaging spiciness. I'm going to add a milliliter to this. Maybe just under a milliliter. And yeah, there's some fantastic Scotch mist there. I don't know if you can quite see that there. And as you often find with peated whiskey, the water emphasises the peat, but this also brings out the bitter notes that provide a nice counterpoint. And then the salty breeze comes back after a while, and it's like some sort of chocolate wafer with some sourish prickle notes, fruits in the nose. I'm trying them out. And there's more peat and more bitterness here too. The malt and the sweet cocoa with cedar flavoured. There's chalk, rocks and minerals. And some oranges which are enjoyable. And on top of that there's a sort of light sweetiness, lemon and lime again. And I love the the oily mouthfeel, which is always associated with Campbeltown's malts. And again, the finish with water ramps up the peat and bitter notes. And oily and citrusy, chalky and waxy, with that nice salty touch at the end of the finish. And it's a long finish. Well, you know, if they'd called this Longrow, I would have called it exceptional for its age. And really, it's just excellent for any age. It's just 9 years old. The essence of all Campbeltown malt is in this whisky. A great work in progress. I'm going to cleanse my palate again with a Stockings mini oak kit. And for a third and final dram tonight, on this look back at Campbeltown from the past, I'm going to look at the non-age statement, Longrow peated Campbeltown malt, bottled at 46% ABV. So, if you're a fan of heavily peated single malts, you're always happy when Longrow is in town. This one was matured in a combination of bourbon and sherry casks. Of course, Longrow is double distilled, and it's a classic offering from Springbank Distillery. The barley spends roughly 48 hours drying under a peat fire, and that results in about a 50 parts per million, phenol parts per million. So this one goes back again probably to 2010. Bottled without an age statement. It's natural colour and there's no chill filtration. And again, it tells you about the chill filtration, so there's no chill filtration. Doesn't tell you about the colour, but I know this is uncoloured because they just don't do that and never have. So this is again a very similar colour to the Springbank CV, pale gold. 46% ABV, 50 parts per million, but of course we know that goes down. There's nice tears on this. So let's see, Longrow, blast from the past. And you get the salt and the sort of leathery smokiness coming to the fore in a sort of maritime combination. It's like we used to have a ship chandlers down by the harbour where I live, and it's It's very reminiscent of a harbour master's jacket. It's a nice balance, and the sour fruits with vanilla pudding wrapped in peat smoke. It's a bit earthy, rubbery wetness, wet hay, wet skin after you've been for a swim in the sea. Pinch of pepper, green fruits with orange peel, dried orange, dried apricot, caramel, dried herbs, and there's tobacco notes there. I used to smoke a pipe, and I'd have canned tobacco. Came in a tartan pouch, and it's kind of like the fruity, exotic fruity tobacco smell of canned tobacco before it's been lit. And exotic fruits with a whiff in the background of the sea. Try them out. And that is light and sweet with notes of green grapes and rhubarb. It's a great contrast to the nose. And then comes a big blast of smoke. Honey with a pinch of pepper and peat smoke. A bit of citrus, green and sour fruits, wet old boards, wet hay, vanilla pudding, dried herbs, buttered burnt toast, a bit of toffee and caramel, a note of mint, and the bitterness of the oak. And, you know, right in the background, if you go deep into it, and I know that Longrow was kind of, I think, the whiskey makers at Springbank wanted to show that they could make an Islay style whiskey. And right in the background of this, if you really search for it, you get a whiff of the hospital in the back of the palate. And that salty, silky smokiness, it comes back from the nose, providing a deeply satisfying ending. It's quite long, sour, green fruits with peat smoke, old wet boards and hay, dried herbs, and that oaky bitterness. And being consistent, I'm going to put a milliliter of water in this. There's a lovely Scotch mist forming there again. And you know, with water, it's light and delicate. And this citrusy peat. Lemon zest. Fresh fruits. And that wet oak again. And there's a whiff of coastal breeze. And again, way there in the background, there's some iodine. And it slowly gets sweeter and fruitier on the nose. I'm trying to and there's a juicy oak, briny, moderate ashy peat, and coastal smoke, and crushed peppercorn. It's slightly bitter around the edges. But I get honey, light, ripe fruits, and smoked barley at the back. I would say the mouth is actually more compelling than the nose. It's very well rounded. This is nice stuff. And with water, it's a short finish with a mouth-drying peat and a sort of woody smoke lingering, and slightly fruity towards the very end. This, in its day, was a great entry-level offering from Longrow, and was perfect for Isla fans looking for something a little different. And as it stands now, it's a decent starter into smoky malts. And it gives a good impression of what to expect from a Longrow. This was a very good job. And I would have expected less from a non-age statement entry-level whiskey. There's no kicking youth in the aroma. I think maybe youth breaks through to the tastes and the aftertaste of light alcohol. Well, this has been a lovely walk down memory lane for me. As you can probably tell, I love Campbeltown whiskies, and especially those which come from the Springbank stable. These were all top-notch drams underneath, and still are for me. If you can visit Campbeltown and Kintyre, it is a very special place. Thank you for listening.